not Connor, starting an episode as Connor of Talking to Unicorns. Is that right? Is that the name of it?
That is correct. It's Talking to Unicorns.
And we are episode number 10. Last week or this week, I'm not quite sure, we had a chat, and at the end of our conversation, I just said, why don't we interview you? And now here we are.
Yes, I know, this is going to be a record. I've created 3 episodes this week, and this will be the 4th. How
amazing.
Does it get?
So productive. And also just really cool. I think the reason I thought it would be cool to talk to you is because you seem to be this you're so enthusiastic and bubbly and supportive and this great kind of facilitator for all these unicorns in the Unicorn Factory. So it's just kind of nice to turn the tables a bit.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's just get into it. Let's see what weird questions I've got for you.
Okay.
Now we'll start really simple. So I guess also I don't know any of these really. I don't really know you very well, so this is quite exciting. I want to know who you are, what you do, and how did you start Unicorn Factory? Like the 411 or the 101.
Okay. The rundown of how it all started.
The rundown.
Okay. Yeah. So, as everyone knows, hopefully, my name's Connor, and I started the Unicorn Factory. And so, I'll just give you the rundown how it all started. So, when I finished university, I was struggling to get work because C's get degrees, but you struggle to get into those graduate programs, So I was never that interested in university, but I showed up and I paid my fees.
Okay.
And what did you study? I studied economics and finance.
Okay.
I didn't even really, to be completely honest, I didn't even really know what I wanted to study, but that seemed like something that kind of seems interesting. And I was like, maybe I'll get a job in like the banking sector one day. When I chose what to study, I actually wanted to study criminology because I've just gone through a series of watching Criminal Minds. And I was just like, that's me. But then a requirement was to do anthropology. And I think I lasted in anthropology for about half an hour. And I just left the class and I switched over to do a commerce degree. So I did economics and finance. Either way, I ended up doing that. But so out of university, I was struggling to find a job that really excited me. And so I think people who were interviewing me were sensing that I wasn't very excited by it. So by chance, something came up where the university basically helped you start your own startup. And so in an attempt to make my CV look a bit better, I thought, you know what, I'm going to join this entrepreneurial boot camp and put that on.
It was a boot camp?
Yeah. And so it was a 12-week program where you can come up with an idea for a business, and then at the end you present to a group of people your business idea and how it would all work. Yeah. And I honestly figured, like, if I do this and I put this on my CV, this will help me get way more interviews and ultimately get me hired. So we signed up to it, and I met it was actually 2 dudes that I started it with. I had just met them there, and we ended up making this app that was like Tinder for food deals in town.
Tinder for food deals. Amazing.
Yeah. So we had all sorts of ideas, but that was like the one that stuck. And we actually we're not taking it super seriously, the whole bootcamp thing, for the first half of the program. But then we moved to a co-working space in town called the Biz Dojo, where this is actually a fun little story because this kind of kickstarted my entire entrepreneurial life. Yeah. Which was, we came up and it was like this big office space and it looked super hip. They had awesome furniture. It looked like, and it also kind of felt like this is where people go to make shit happen. So we came up there, and the owner of the place, this dude called Nick, came up to us and he was like, "Oh, you boys come over here." So he came over and he was like, "Hey, I'm Nick. I run this place. What is the startup? Or like, what are you doing here?" So we kind of made up the idea for Hatcher, which was the name of our app, on the spot. And that kind of turned into Tinder for food deals. And what he did was he just reacted so enthusiastically about the idea. So at the time we were like, I mean, what a nonsense idea, really. But he was like, that is honestly the greatest thing I've ever heard. And I think it was in that moment, I know, he just got so pumped. He was like, I really think, I remember him saying, he's like, yeah, I really think this has legs. Honestly, I think you're really onto something. And we were all looking at each other like, what? Really? So just with that, we got super excited about the idea that someone like him found our idea good. And then being in that co-working space meant that we got like a lot of exposure to other people who were running businesses, and like they were introducing us to people, and like we really started to ride that wave of like, you know, we could actually do this, you know? So we ended up doing our presentation. That was awesome. We got like a lot of great feedback. We ended up joining like another entrepreneurial program in town. But long story short, we started building this app. It ended up being 4 of us. And we built like an iOS app, an Android app, and it was really good. However, we made no money off it. So we like, at the start, we got like a stipend by the boot camp people, and they let us work from that co-working space for free. But we were basically using our little savings that we had to basically do it. We also had to pick up little part-time jobs here and there, but the longer we did it, the harder it got. So we reached a point where the 2 developers in our team said, look, we're going to have to find proper jobs, because like, this is like, it doesn't look like we're making any money off this anytime soon. And at the time, I was very, very, very invested in making sure that we keep going. So I said, okay, wait, before you go and find jobs, let me go and find us some work that we could do, and that will tie us over for a bit longer. And I don't know how it happened. We managed to find this guy who wanted to make a mobile app. And because our startup was making a mobile app, for some reason they thought that we're like the experts in making mobile apps. So we basically, I met up with him. I said, what is it that you want to do? He pitched us his idea, which was, it was like a panic button for Uber drivers, something like that. I won't go into of it.
Okay.
But he was like, sweet, I love it. That sounds fantastic. And we just went ahead and made the app for him. And so then he paid us, and that basically allowed us to keep working on our idea for like another few months.
Great. Cool.
Yeah. And so the odd thing that happened after that was, so I was like, okay, sweet, we've got enough money. We can like return back to just focusing on building this app and turn that into like the business that we were trying to make with it. But like the word started spreading that we were like making mobile apps for people.
Yeah, and there would have been a lot of people pretty keen. I would have put my hand up if I knew.
So,
you make me an app?
Pretty much. It was like people were coming, like I didn't even know how they were finding out about us, but they're like, hey, we heard you made this mobile app. That's awesome. Can you make one for us as well? And I don't know why, but initially I was like, nah, sorry, we're busy. Like we're working on our own app. So we're not really doing this.
Do you know, I have to just interrupt you really quickly.
Yeah.
I run my own dance company, and we started kind of like, what the hell are we doing? Did this thing, had this pop up, and then someone was like, literally sent an email in saying, hey, my name's Rebecca from 7 Sharp and would like to do a bid on you. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for messaging, but we actually don't allow cameras or videos into our classes, so no. So I'm only saying that because it's like you are just, obviously we ended up, the girls were like, Abby, what are you doing? But you just are so invested and committed, aren't you? And focused and stuck on what you're doing. I love that.
100%. Like, honestly, I can honestly tell you, looking back at it in hindsight, like starting that business became my identity. Like when the
mean Hatchet?
Yeah, Hatchet.
Yeah.
So when it was going really well, like I felt really, really good about it. When it went really, really bad, which it eventually did, I felt really, really bad about it. Yeah. So I feel like that's something that naturally happens, especially if you're like new to business. You kind of make it your own, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're so emotionally invested in it. And eventually I think you learn, and you kind of learn to separate the two from each other. But especially then, it was kind of like, that thing was my life, you know, like I went from basically being someone that was struggling to get jobs because I didn't care about uni, to suddenly being someone who was like giving presentations to people on how to start a business, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
It wasn't that moment that I realized, like, wait, who are all these people that have been giving me presentations in the past?
Yeah, funny.
It was, yeah, I mean, it was it was a wild ride, but that part there, so was also the start of the Unicorn Factory.
Yes.
Because there was so in our co-working space, there were a bunch of other people working on startups, and they had the same problems that we had, which was just like cash, making cash and like, and just getting.
Sorry, it was cash. They had the problem of cash.
But yeah, so what happened was I met, there's a friend of mine in the co-working space called Chris, who was like a really good web developer. And he just said to me, oh, Connor, if you want, just refer that work to me and I'll just like give you a cut of whatever money I make. So I was like, what? Yes.
Thank you.
So from that point onwards, whenever someone got in touch with me, I'm like, hey, can you make me an app or a website or whatever? I was like, I can't do it, but I can refer you to someone who is amazing at it. So I basically would refer all the work to Chris, and Chris would just go ahead and build it. He would do like an awesome job, and like it would make us all look really good. And that was kind of like the start of the Unicorn Factory. So like the Unicorn Factory is a website now, but back then it was just me literally working with Chris. It's
just like network. Yeah, right. Okay.
2-person network in our co-working space. And so I would just refer work to Chris, and Chris is still on the Unicorn Factory. Chris still gets like heaps of work through there, but that's kind of how the whole system would work. I would just like refer work that would come to me, and that was kind of it. And then eventually, the Unicorn Factory was something that I turned into like a little brand then, but it was always like very much like a side project that was in the way of the main thing, which was Patch at the time. But I started working on learning how to build like little websites here and there. So I kind of started building like the first version of the website that it is now. And it was, at the start, it was literally like 6 people. It was Chris, me, 2 of my friends who had full-time jobs, 1 other person in the co-working space who I roped into being on there. And then Marielle, my now wife, was on there as well. So it was very much just like, you know, I set it up, to make it easier to find us, but also so if someone would want to look for like a designer, like a software developer or a marketer, me and Chris would look, it would be on there and it would look like a lot more professional and stuff like that. And so that was pretty much the starting point of it all. But then over time, more and more people just started asking me if they can sign up to the website and be a freelance, like if they can like list their services on this.
And how many people do you have now on the Unicorn Factory?
So we have right now about 460 people.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And are they all in New Zealand?
They're all in New Zealand.
Okay, I love that. Because you know, when I came across the Unicorn Factory, I thought, oh, this looks, it's really bad, but it's classic sort of Kiwi nature. I was like, this looks a bit too cool to be New Zealand. And then I ended up having a phone conversation with you and you're like, yeah, I'm in the Biz Dojo. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening right here in my city. How awesome. And I was immediately very engaged. So you've now got over 400 people and it's all in New Zealand. And so that's Unicorn Factory.
Yeah.
And so that's one part of you, of many parts. And you've also got no code. And no code is that sort of, no code is what you, it's like the manifestation of, but also the manifestation of what Unicorn Factory is. Like you applied that to create Unicorn Factory, is that right?
Yeah, so no code is just a way that you can make like apps and software. So I never learned how to code. So I think like a lot of people
It's really surprising.
Yeah,
isn't
because I think when a lot of people look at the Unicorn Factory now, a lot of people get in touch with me thinking I'm an app developer, but I'm not. I can't. So my background's in marketing, but
That's a myth.
Yeah, I couldn't write code to save myself. Okay, like I wouldn't even know where to start. But so no code is this like kind of this movement that started probably, it kind of became big in the last 3-4 years. And basically what it is, it's like a bunch of software that you can use to build apps without needing to know how to code.
Okay, cool.
And so when I got into it, I didn't even think of it as like a no code thing. It was kind of like a real, like, it wasn't even really anything. It was just like a bunch of tools that you could use. But like a lot of the developers that I worked with at the time would really frown upon it. They're like, what is this drag and dropping type stuff? But I was just kind of, it does what I want it to do. So I'm just going to spin it up. And in the last few years, it's just become like a real big thing where people who don't have the money or to like hire developers can actually still spin up like basic prototypes of their websites without needing to know how to code. And that's how I built the Unicorn Factory, using those tools.
Yeah, cool.
So, and then that also became like kind of like my freelancing job, where I basically help businesses or people starting businesses build their platforms using those tools so that they do not have to hire developers to do it for them. So
awesome. And then I guess they're empowered as well and in control of, like, you're sort of giving them the tools so that they can continue to work on it and update it and change it and things themselves.
Exactly. So like, you know, even if you, so that's exactly right. So even when you do hire developers to do your stuff, one of the things where it gets really expensive is that you need to keep them and pay them over a longer period of time, because what do you do if it breaks? So that's another thing that these tools are really great for is, you know, you can have control of it yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, like there are like a lot of platforms that have been out there for ages that people already use that are in the no code category without them realizing. For example, Squarespace, you know?
Yes. Oh, I love Squarespace.
Squarespace is a big one, or Shopify, but they're like a whole bunch of additional tools that have really become big over the last few years, just because these businesses have realized what a high barrier to entry there is for people to start their own online businesses. So they built their businesses around empowering non-coders to be able to build software platforms.
I love that. And I mean, now there are so many people who it feels like it anyway. Maybe it's because I live and breathe in this space myself, but it does feel like there are so many people starting their own businesses, and it's so awesome. I think in New Zealand, it's a huge part of our economy, small to medium-sized enterprises.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's so great that you're like a part of that, I guess. Who are the people that you have done it for?
So I've actually done quite a few. So I think the first one that I did was a friend and I started a house sitting company.
House sitting? Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so like we just, so that's a story in itself. But yeah, the website's still out there. My friend Ryan bought the company off me. And it's called myhousesit.co.nz. And that was built in a very similar way to the Unicorn Factory. So I did some work for them. Then there's another a lady in San Francisco. She's awesome. She was basically wanted to build a platform that allowed people to create a will online. So I don't know where the idea came from, but she said to me like, "Hey, I can't code, but I'd be interested in learning how to build it using like no code tools. And you've been recommended to me, so can you show me how to do it?" So I was like, "Yeah." So we jumped on a call, and over the course of 12 weeks, I showed her how to build her own platform. And
how cool!
It's awesome. It's unbelievable. And so the thing about it is, she's like a real go-getter, like a real great personality, got like good interpersonal skills. So she's like your classic salesperson. And
yes, but we are still talking about wills, right? Like she wanted to, okay.
And so she basically learned how to build this platform. Then she went out and she started talking to law firms about, hey, how can we get this up and running? You know, and so it was phenomenal. She was like, So basically the way that the platform works now is you go onto the website, you fill out the questionnaire with all the things, that automatically creates a will for you, that then gets sent to a law firm that basically checks it, signs it off, and then sends it back to you. And she did it all by herself. So like I showed her what to do and how to do it, but I'd basically be on a call with her for like an hour, give her some tips and tricks, but it would be up to her to go out and learn the tools. And she went and did it. And over the course of like 12 weeks, she had learned how to do it.
I love that. That's so great. That is so cool. So that is no code.
That is pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, no code sounds like, I get that why it's called no code, because there's no codes. Unicorn Factory, I kind of get why it's Unicorn Factory as well, because they're all unicorns.
Yeah.
But the factory part also, like, where is there a deeper meaning to like why you've called it Unicorn Factory, or is it?
Yeah. So unicorns. Okay. So there's a longer story to it, but I think where the name came from is that we joined. So in the startup world, there's this idea that a business that is worth $1 billion is a unicorn. And so when we moved into one of these entrepreneurial programs, one of them said to us, join us, we'll turn you into a unicorn. And we fully were like, yeah,
we're gonna be unicorns.
But like, even after joining them, we still had made no money. Not their fault, it was definitely our fault. But then when we started making those apps for people, we kind of made a joke that like we had to come up with like a brand name, and I was like, it looks like we're the people who are making unicorns. So we were like, we're the Unicorn Factory.
Cool. Okay, great.
And so honestly, I didn't actually think that like, so at that point when that name came up, it was kind of like, no, like I didn't think it would still be a thing now. Like it was kind of more like a joke. Like, oh, we're building $1 billion businesses for people, which is like when you like hear it now, you know, like businesses being referred to as like unicorns, everyone just like rolls their eyes and stuff like that. It's kind of like, oh, come on. But at the time it seemed like a funny joke, and then it just kind of stuck. And so many people came up to me and they're like, it's such a great brand name. And I'm like, oh yeah.
It is. I think it's great. It's all in line with this theme of kind of being able to empower yourself and just, you're a unicorn.
Yeah.
You're a unicorn. Connor, you're a unicorn.
It is a good name for the freelancers, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see, what other questions do I have? What other questions have I written down as Connor, as Abby? What were the goals of, I'm mostly interested in Unicorn Factory, I guess, but also no code, but what were the goals that you had at the beginning, and how are they different now? We've kind of talked a little bit about that because you were in a very different place. Like it just happened naturally, didn't it? But what was the...
Yeah. So that's a good one. When I started, the goal was that I get more work.
Yeah.
I literally was like, if I can get work out of this, phenomenal. And it's like the number one thing, because whenever I got work, it gave me like a little bit of a lifeline to keep working on my own projects. So I was like, my main objective here is to make it easier for people to find me. And so if there's a group of us, it will make us look more legitimate. So that when I started, it was like, if I can get work through here, that's great.
Yeah.
Then over time, more and more people started joining, and I was just kind of like, you know, that's sweet. Like if I can help other people while I'm helping myself, well, that's cool. Like no problem. And then I think it was probably like a year in to the Unicorn Factory, one of the freelancers on the website got in touch with me, and they were like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that because of you, I've managed to freelance this entire year through work that I got through your website. And that was honestly the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, I was so happy about that. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to try and help as many people as possible do it. Because, you know, when I think back to like the people who left a really good like impression on me in my life, other than like my wife and like the standard people, I always think of like people who really gave me a chance to do what I love doing. So that includes like my drama school teacher,
Love them.
my German teacher back in school. You know, I was a bit of trouble in school, but he was always very supportive, even though he was very strict. The dudes that ran the co-working space, that they let me stay there for free, even though it's like it's their
They
business.
just believed in you.
Pretty much. And like there were so many people that gave me these opportunities and chances to basically try and do what I love doing, even at times where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so, you know, I always find it very hard when you think of like, what's your vision and what's your mission in life? It's like I couldn't find that. Like there's no way that you sit down and like write it out like without maybe some people can, but I was like, I always struggled to figure that out. So the way I approached it was, I want to be like, I would like people to feel about me the way that I feel about those people. And so the Unicorn Factory was just like the perfect way to do it. It's like, and it's such an easy one to do. It's like, you can just set it up and people, you know, not all of them, I wish I could do it for everyone, but like, you know, even if just like a few people get work through there and that like motivates, that like kind of gets them excited about, you know, the possibility of working for themselves, then that is amazing, you know, and that is now kind of become my top priority. And so my goal is to do that for more people. Like, and yeah, I think ultimately wherever things go, like, I don't know, but, ultimately, I think what I'll always be working towards is to help people be designers or be copywriters or do this or do that, you know?
Or code their own website or
No,
thing.
no more coding. no more software developers. No, I'm just joking.
So who do you have, just quickly as well, on Unicorn Factory? You've got copywriters, graphic designers. What are the types of people?
Yeah, so we've got three main categories. We've got four main categories. So we've got designers, which is like logo design, web design, all that kind of stuff. Then we've got marketing people. So that's like copywriters like yourself, people who do like Facebook ads, Google ads, Google Analytics, all that kind of stuff. Then we have developers, which is, you know, making websites, making apps, a lot of custom things. The no code category technically sits under that as well. And then we have like consultants. And so consultants I wasn't planning on having consultants as part of the first, but there were like a lot of people who would do things like event management or project management or research. They didn't really fit into either of those three categories. So I just kind of made consultant as kind of like an all-rounder category or like a random little niche category. So we have that as well.
Great. I love that. And for like just following COVID, how has the whole world changed, do you think? Like what's happening with the freelance industry?
Yep. So
at
the time I was doing a lot of work doing Facebook ads in the tourism industry. And the event space. That was kind of like my market that I did Facebook ads for. So as soon as COVID hit, we're like the first on the chopping block.
Yeah.
So, and you could see so there were like a lot of freelancers that reached out to me, like pretty much immediately being like, hey, what kind of work opportunities do you have on the Unicorn Factory? I've just like, my job got cancelled, my contract got cancelled. And it was pretty apparent that like, you know, freelancers, because they're contractors, are kind of first on the chopping block. And then the week following the lockdown, we had a huge drop in inquiries from businesses. Like I was like, okay, it's doomsday. Like all the work is drying up, nothing's here. And the problem, so what also happened was all our work was decreasing, but all these like freelancers were signing up. So all these people were like, not just creating accounts, they were like also paying to upgrade their accounts. And so I put a label on the website being like, please don't upgrade your accounts. Like, we're losing heaps
Very
of
little work. Yeah.
you know?
Right.
But then immediately the week after, so in the second week of lockdown, or the second week of level 4, there was like a span of 3 days where we just started getting so many inquiries for Shopify websites. Like everyone wanted to start a Shopify website. And then the week after that, suddenly we've got people who want to learn, who want web designers, logo designers, all that kind of stuff. The week after that, all the marketing stuff started picking back up again. And what happened, I think, was there were a whole bunch of businesses who never thought about moving online, like your local yoga studio or whoever really. And they just discovered in that time that they have to move online. And there is, at that point, you don't, if you've never really done anything online, you have to probably hire help. And so the only other option really, if like the unicorn factory isn't there, is to get an agency. And an agency is friggin' expensive. It's very hard for like a small business to do that. So we just started getting heaps of work. And ever since then, it's just been like up and up and up. More.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just created more work for like the freelance community. We've a lot more of them have like upgraded their accounts, which has meant I've been able to invest a lot more in like paid advertising. So it's just, ever since lockdown, it's just grown immensely. And I think it's due to a lot of businesses wanting to move their business online and wanting to work with locals and not being able to afford maybe agencies. So
Yeah. Cool. There's definitely a change in the air.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that there's, especially in the future, there are going to be heaps of opportunities for people who are freelancing.
Yeah. And what about people who aren't freelancers right now or have been thinking about it, or like what would be the skills that you think that freelancers should or could consider developing or have, or do you need skills? How can you get into it?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
So I think a lot of people that get into freelancing and doing certain things for a job get into it because they like doing it. You know, people become web designers because they like designing websites. People become copywriters because they like writing. People like make no-code websites because they like no-code. Most freelancers that don't start with the intention of it being a business. That's like a best case scenario.
Well, it's like Unicorn Factory itself, isn't it?
Pretty much. And I think like that is like a very organic way of doing it. Obviously, like you can look at things and be like, what's the demand and where is the market and all that kind of stuff. But like, truth be told, like I think a lot of times people just do what they love doing. And then often by chance, they realize that there are people actually out there in need of the things that they do, you know. I feel like especially illustrators are always very surprised when people are like, hey, I want to hire you for this particular type of work. You know, they like see the work that they do and go, hey, I love that. Reach out to them and like, I want to hire you. And so I feel like so I think the most important thing is just got to love what you do. Number one. Number two is like, if you want to give it a shot, I think something like the Unicorn Factory, but there are also other sites out there, are there to basically give you a shot to practice on paid work. Because unless you want it to be a hobby, you know, eventually you're going to need to start charging money for it, and you're going to need to actually do it on paid contracts. So you need to find a way to find those paid contracts. And I feel like, you know, platforms like the Unicorn Factory can help you get your first contract, but then they're also like, ask people. You know, like maybe you have a friend who runs a business, or maybe get in touch with like a social enterprise that you like, or even get in touch with businesses that you like and practice the business side of freelancing. Because if you start to learn that, then you can do what you love doing full time, you know?
I love it. And is that not the dream, to do what you love
That is the
full time?
That is the dream.
And it sounds like you're living it. I think I read your about page and that's what it says.
Yeah.
You're doing what you love. That's awesome.
Yeah. And the thing is, I can like mix it up as well, you know, like I spent a lot of time doing Facebook ads, and then I was like,
and you stopped doing those sort of, and why is that? Just
because I felt like I felt like, to be completely honest, I don't want to sound like a dick about it, but it was just like not that hard anymore. It wasn't like I wasn't kind of like I didn't really feel like it was like that much of a challenge anymore. And I was kind of like, oh, you know, it's cool, like, you know, and it's like it pays well, but I was kind of like, I'm not loving it. Like I'm kind of, it's like okay, but I'm not loving it. And I found some, like, you know, the whole no code thing suddenly turned in from being something that was like the unicorn factory, like a hobby, to being like, oh, now people are actually like, there's like demand for it. People are interested in learning a bit more about it. I went over to San Francisco to do a talk on how I built the unicorn factory.
Wow.
Yeah, and from there, like I got so much demand from people just being like, hey, can you show me how you built this? I want to build like the unicorn factory for like actors in London. And I'm like, sure.
Yes, I can help you there.
You know? And so I kind of feel like, you know, Facebook is good. It helps with an aspect of the business, but I actually just really would like to work with people who have cool ideas, but don't have the technical means to build those ideas. So I started focusing a bit more on the no code space. And, you know, you're starting from scratch again. So, you know, it can always be a bit of like, you know, you have to like rethink your strategies, do some new things.
But that's the challenge that you want, isn't it?
It's exciting, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my focus is now. In case any of my Facebook clients are watching this, I'll still do your Facebook ads, but no more new ones.
Fun. Oh, cool. Well, I'm dry of questions, but I still feel like we've only just touched the surface. But that was just so good. I love hearing your story properly, and I'm so grateful that the Unicorn Factory and No Code exists. It's just the best.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited that you're part of the community as well. Like, honestly, the best part about it has been meeting everyone that has, or like talking to everyone that signed up. I think like people find it weird because like when you signed up, I called you, eh?
I think you sent a message saying, hey, thanks for signing up. Give me a call if you need a hand. And I was like, yeah, classic, like American chat. Because in my mind, I was like, someone in the States. I'm like, I'm in New Zealand. We'll have different time zones. Oh, and then you were like, I know, isn't that funny? It's so weird how I just assumed that. I just thought it was so great and so cool.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people do. But like eventually people like reach out. So
yeah.
There are a lot of people who like get their first lead through the Unicorn Factory and they go, hey, do you have like any advice on like how much to charge for the work that I do? Mm-hmm. It's like the best part about it, in my opinion. Like, yes, jump on a call.
I do actually have one more question, last question, and it's I guess in regards to people creating their account on Unicorn Factory. I know when you spoke with me, you were like, get your case studies up. Make sure you've got a case study. That's really important. And I can see when you go on and look at other people's pages, it's really useful. You can see what people have done. I get to do that. But is there anything else? Because I know over the past several months, you've done heaps of updates to the Unicorn Factory. Mm-hmm. So is there anything new that's really important for people to know about or like to keep in mind? This is my puppy.
Hey, puppy.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so I'm always making like little updates here and there.
Yes.
But I think the one thing that's useful to know is to put yourself in the position of someone who's using the Unicorn Factory. So one thing that I feel trips up people a lot on the Unicorn Factory is they try to hedge their bets when they create their accounts by really focusing on being an all-rounder. Okay, so they want to be a logo designer, a Shopify developer. They also do like paid advertising. It's the whole spiel. And I think the reason why people do it is because they go, if I present myself as someone that does a lot of things, I will get more chances for work. But it actually has the opposite effect. So clients usually find us because they have searched for something like Facebook ads person or copywriter or this or that. So what happens is they come to the website and they see like a list of copywriters there. Now, the people that they're most likely going to reach out to are the people who have a full focus on being a copywriter on their profile, not ones who are, I do a bit of copywriting, I do a little bit of Google Analytics, I do a bit of shopping.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so my recommendation with specifically for the Unicorn Factory is to pick the skill or the service that you want to offer. The number one thing that it is. So if you love copywriting, position yourself as a copywriter. If you love Facebook ads, position yourself as a Facebook ads person and build your entire profile, which includes your bio and your case studies around that.
Yeah.
And I think the people that have done that have done incredibly well because they just look like super experts in that particular field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, so this is just one last thing on that, is like, I think another reason why people don't want to do that is because sometimes they feel that they are genuine all-rounders. So I was like that. I love doing Facebook ads and I love doing Google ads and I love doing all of those types of things. And my worry was that if I position myself as a Facebook ads person, that I will pigeonhole myself into not doing all the other stuff that I enjoy doing. The truth of the matter is as soon as you get your foot in your door with your client, with the skill that you're best at and that you love doing most, you will build trust with that client. And as soon as you've built that trust with that client, they will automatically assume that you're good at Google ads as well, which I am not, by the way, but I'll happily do the work. You know, so you're not pigeonholing yourself into doing one particular thing. You are basically just making yourself look like an absolute pro at one thing. And once you got your foot in the door, you expand into other areas and do all the other things that you enjoy doing.
I love that. That's really good advice, isn't it? I think that's really useful.
It took me like 2 years to figure that out. So there you go. There's a cheat sheet.
All good things take time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being interviewed on your own interview show. This has been episode 10 with Connor.
Yay!
From me.
Alrighty. Thanks.